Well, a bunch of you sent me a link to an article titled, How the Teachings of Islam Could Help Us Prevent More Sexual Abuse Scandals. It's written by Qasim Rashid and was posted yesterday by The Independent. You have to hand it to Qasim. Whatever he lacks in honesty and integrity, he more than makes up for in arrogance and stupidity. How many Islamic sexual abuse scandals have we heard about in recent years? We never stop hearing about Islamic rape gangs preying upon vulnerable young girls. We never stop hearing about the skyrocketing rape rates in areas that are flooded with Muslim refugees. And yet, the moment we have a sexual abuse scandal that doesn't have Islam written all over it, Muslim apologists seize the opportunity to tell us that the solution to Western sexual abuse problems is Islam, the greatest source of sexual abuse problems the world has ever seen. I haven't read Qasim's article yet because I thought it might be more fun for me to defend his claim that Muhammad's teachings could prevent more sexual abuse scandals. You see, I happen to agree with Qasim on this one. I believe that Islam can help us prevent sexual abuse scandals. It won't help us prevent sexual abuse. Sexual abuse thrives under Islam. But it can help prevent the scandals. So let me explain why I agree with Qasim, and then tomorrow I'll read his article and we can go through it and see how close our explanations were. Let me know if you want to make a trilogy out of this, and we can finish the trilogy with a video titled Harvey Weinstein versus Muhammad. Who was the greater sexual predator? For now, let's go through 10 ways Islam can help us prevent more sexual abuse scandals. First, Islam allows and promotes polygamy. Surah 4 verse 3 of the Quran says that Muslim men can have up to 4 wives at one time. And since Muslim men are free to divorce these wives and marry new wives, they have an endless supply of sex partners. What better way to avoid sex scandals than by giving men unlimited sex partners? Second, in Surah 2 verse 223 of the Quran, Allah says to Muslim men, "Your wives are a tilth for you, so go to your tilth when or how you will." We don't use the word tilth much nowadays. A tilth is a patch of ground that you plow so you can sow your seed. The Quran says women are a tilth that men can approach whenever and however they want. The historical background of this verse is that when Muslims moved to Medina, they began marrying women from Medina. And the women of Medina didn't want to have sex in certain positions. One woman told her husband not to come near her if he wanted sex in these positions. The dispute was brought to Muhammad, and Allah responded by declaring, "Your wives are your tilth, so plow them however you want." Clearly, if women come to view themselves as nothing more than fields for plowing, they're not going to complain when men treat them as such. Scandal averted. Third, Islam threatens women with hell for not pleasuring their husbands. In Sahih Muslim 35:41, Muhammad says, "If a man calls his wife to his bed and she does not come to him, and he spends the night angry with her, the angels will curse her until morning." In Sunan Ibn Majah 1853, Muhammad declares, "No woman can fulfill her duty towards Allah until she fulfills her duty towards her husband. If he asks her for intimacy, even if she is on her camel saddle, she should not refuse." In case you're wondering how seriously Allah takes this, Muhammad says in Sahih al-Bukhari 1052, "I also saw the hellfire, and I had never seen such a horrible sight. I saw that most of its inhabitants were women." The people asked, "Oh, Allah's messenger, why is it so?" The Prophet replied, "Because of their ungratefulness." It was asked whether they are ungrateful to Allah. The Prophet said, "They are ungrateful to their companions of life, i.e. their husbands, and ungrateful to good favors done to them." If a man's 4 wives are in a state of constant fear that they'll be sent to hell for not satisfying his sexual desires, they'll be more inclined to do whatever he wants, and he'll have less reason to go around propositioning women. Once again, scandal averted. Fourth, some women aren't as quick to obey their husbands as Allah and Muhammad demand. What are Muslim men supposed to do about rebellious wives? In Surah 4, verse 34 of the Quran, Allah says that if you even fear disobedience from your wife, you can warn her, banish her to a separate bed, and beat her until she does what you say. This works out perfectly for sexual predators because some sexual predators enjoy beating women. And in Islam, men are allowed to beat their wives without even being questioned. Because Muhammad said in Sunan Ibn Majah, 1986, a man should not be asked why he beat his wife. In the West, men beating women could lead to a scandal. But if beating women becomes perfectly acceptable, as it is in Islam, where's the scandal? Fifth, whereas some sexual predators like to beat women, which is perfectly acceptable in Islam, other sexual predators like to molest little girls, which is also perfectly acceptable in Islam. Since Muhammad himself had sex with a 9-year-old girl, and Surah 65 verse 4 of the Quran allows Muslim men to have sex with prepubescent girls, Islam has helped countless pedophiles avoid those pesky scandals. Sixth, in case 4 wives aren't enough for a man, Islam gives him access to an endless array of sex slaves. According to the Quran, Surah 23 verses 1 through 6 and Surah 70 verses 22 through 30, Muslim men are allowed to have sex with both their wives and their female captives and slave girls. As we've seen in the news in recent years, gangs of Muslim men capturing girls and using them as sex slaves has led to numerous embarrassing sex scandals. But with the spread of Islam, no one will be allowed to speak out on behalf of sex slaves ever again. So long, scandals. Seventh, sometimes a sexual predator is only interested in casual sex. He doesn't want the same woman or women or little girls day after day. Fortunately for these men, Islam allows a form of prostitution called temporary marriage. Muslim men are allowed to hire prostitutes as long as they marry them for the evening. Now, politicians and actors hiring prostitutes has always been a source of tabloid sex scandals. But when Muhammad's teachings spread around the world, prostitution will be part of everyday life. No shame, no secrets, no scandals. Eighth, even with all of these opportunities for sex with so many different women and girls, some men are going to commit adultery or rape. Adultery and rape often lead to scandals, but in Islam, men can easily cover their tracks. According to Surah 2, verse 282 of the Quran, a woman's testimony is half as reliable as a man's testimony. Muhammad explains why in Sahih al-Bukhari 2658. The Prophet said, "Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that of a man?" The women said, "Yes." He said, "This is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind." Obviously, if a man's testimony is twice as reliable as a woman's testimony, it's going to be very difficult to take women seriously when they claim that they've been sexually abused. If the abuse can't be proven, the scandal ain't a-movin'. Ninth, it gets even better for rapists, because under Sharia, a woman can only prove that a man has raped her if he confesses or she has 4 male witnesses. Since most victims of rape can't produce 4 male witnesses, and most men aren't willing to confess, rapes rarely become scandals in Islam. Sorry, ladies, but if you can't produce 4 witnesses, you can't produce a scandal. 10th, even though Sharia makes it next to impossible for a woman to prove that she's been raped, Islam provides additional incentives for rape and abuse victims to keep their mouths shut. The penalty for adultery in Islam is death by stoning. The penalty for fornication is 100 lashes. If a woman goes to police and claims that she's been raped but can't produce 4 male witnesses, her rapist goes free. But since in the course of accusing the man she's admitted to having sex, guess who gets punished? While this certainly leads to a scandal for the woman, at least there's no scandal for the man. Thanks again, Muhammad's teachings. So, Qasim Rashid is right. Islam can help us prevent more sexual abuse scandals by making it far, far easier for men to abuse women and by making it far, far more difficult for women to prove that they've been abused. Harvey Weinstein's mistake then wasn't that he abused women. It's that he didn't do it in a country governed by Sharia. Well, that's my defense of Qasim's claim. How close did I come to what he wrote in his article? Find out next time in the ongoing adventures of our Western news sites playing the longest, most complex practical joke in history.